Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. Welcome to our late June event, The Business in Fashion. And I'll pass it on to Rachel to introduce herself and this event.
All right, thank you, Allison. Hi, everyone. Like Allison mentioned, thank you so much for everyone coming out to see today's event, The Business in Fashion. It's our second June event that we've held as part of Girls for Business, and we're super excited to have you here to spectate and listen from our two wonderful panelists. I will pass it on to Ivy.
Hi everyone, I'm Ivy, a co-founder and director of operations at Girls for Business. Today we want to give a special thank you to our wonderful panelists, Miss Pamela Valdez and Miss Bailey Parker for speaking. Now I'll pass it on to Allison, the host of today's event.
Hi, everyone. Again, I'm Allison Wong, and I'm a director of outreach at Girls for Business. Thank you all so much for joining us today, and we are so excited to see everyone. I hope you've all been having an amazing weekend. And just so we know who's here and to have a little icebreaker warm up for today's event, please type your name, grade, and where you're from in the chat. I am a rising junior and I'm in high school from Maryland. Great. Thank you so much, everybody. And so today at the Business and Fashion event, we hope to educate, inspire, and empower all middle and high school girls in pursuing a business career. We have two highly qualified panelists today who will be hosting and engaging an interactive workshop about their experiences within the intersection between business and fashion. They'll discuss everything there is to it, from how they became interested in the industry to how they gained experience through internships and building up a portfolio. And thank you everyone for typing in where you are. Genesis, it's nice to see you. Sophomore in college, thank you for tuning in to us. And same with you, Raksha. Thank you, everybody. And so now we're going to give a full rundown of today's event structure, just so you have a better idea of what's going to be happening. First, I'll be briefly introducing our organization, Girls for Business, and sharing our initiatives with everyone. And then our panelists will then be introducing themselves and sharing their general involvement with fashion and business. Next, you'll get to participate in a 15-minute breakout session where each panelist will go further into depth on the details of their specific experiences. And after, we'll rejoin to take a group photo, ask a few questions, and end with some closing remarks. Now, a little bit about Girls for Business. Girls for Business is a student-led nonprofit organization that is dedicated to empowering middle and high school girls interested in exploring business career pathways. We were established in June of 2020 and are run by a team of over 100 members. And we're proud to say that Girls for Business has impacted thousands of girls worldwide through its platforms. By providing free mentorship programs, business news, educational virtual events, and engaging resources, our team hopes to create a platform where girls can find business guidance and establish strong connections with like-minded young women. Girls for Business runs 3 educational programs: our business mentorship programs, our business resource program, and our business networking program. The business mentorship program has provided free business mentorship to over 170 student mentees, with our 3rd cycle currently ongoing. Our resource program has released over 45 bi-weekly business newsletters with educational resources and business news. Not to mention, our community platforms have also connected over 4,000 girls from 60 countries across the globe. Now, before we transition into our panelist introductions, we'd like to give you a heads up that we will be splitting up into breakout rooms led by each panelist, shortly after each introduction. And if a specific panelist interests you, please private message Rachel your top 2 choices as soon as possible, and we'll try to take that into account when splitting up the breakout rooms. Now I'll pass it on to our panelists to introduce themselves. Pamela, if you could get us started.
Hi, everyone. I'm Pamela. I'm a senior at FIT, which is in New York, and I'm currently already got my associate's degree in fashion business management, and next year in May, I'll be getting my bachelor's also in fashion business management. And outside of school, I do a lot of social media partnerships. I've worked with over 150 brands, from all things like fashion, beauty, tech, like you name it. I've definitely like probably collaborated with them. And I also have a fashion blog called Glamour and Guide that I started when I graduated high school. And I also have a social media agency where I used to do social media management, and now I just post like internship opportunities and opportunities for students and creators.
Thank you so much, Pamela. And next, I'll pass it on to Bailey.
Hi, everyone. My name is Bailey. I'm also a senior at the Fashion Institute of Technology. I currently have my associates in advertising and marketing communications, and now I'm pursuing a bachelor's in international trade and marketing. So I've worked in fashion for a long time. I do sales, I do PR, but my main focus is PR. I've worked New York Fashion Week, Paris Fashion Week, and Milan Fashion Week, and have had a ton of incredible experiences. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Bailey. We'll now be transitioning to our breakout rooms, where you'll spend around 15 minutes with one of our panelists learning more about their specific tips and tricks for the industry. We hope you enjoy, and we will see you soon. And if you still have a specific preference on whose breakout room that you want to learn more about, please message Rachel and we'll try and organize you into that room.
All right, perfect. It'll just take me a minute to create the breakouts. All right, rooms are now opening. Enjoy.
Okay, it's not letting me share the screen, Rachel.
Oh, let me change that really quick.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, should be good now.
Great. Let's see. Great. So let me go ahead and go to my slides. Hey, everyone can see this, right?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. So again, my name is Bailey. So a little bit more about me. I was born in Connecticut and raised in Raleigh, North Carolina, but I live in New York City now, where I attend FIT. In addition to fashion, I also work in film and TV as a background actor. I'm the art director of a vintage reseller brand and also a freelance production assistant for events. And another big thing about me is I love to travel. So kind of how my journey in fashion started was I was in middle school, and I think it was my either 7th or 8th grade year. And I felt very stuck. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I played a lot of sports, but I didn't really enjoy them all that much. I just felt like I kept doing the same thing over and over again. And I wanted to find my purpose. And so for my 14th birthday, my parents let me take a trip to New York City to visit a family member. And at the time, it was New York Fashion Week. So I remember like all the glitz and glamour of the whole event and just seeing everyone running around and like all the chaos was just so exciting. And before going on that trip, I kind of knew of fashion, but I didn't really know how broad it was and how many opportunities were available within the industry. So I just really fell in love with it. And my dream was to go back and work it and hopefully even attend it. So which I did, which has been awesome. So kind of how I started is, North Carolina doesn't have like a huge fashion scene. So I really made use of what was available to me. So I watched a lot of documentaries. I watched like the September issue, the first Monday in May. All of these are incredible. So I would definitely recommend watching those. I read a lot of books too, but my main thing was I utilized my LinkedIn. So I created a profile in my sophomore year. And during that time, I reached out to a bunch of professionals within the industry at companies that I was interested in. So like KCD and Carla Odo, which are two big PR firms. I mean, Louis Vuitton, all these amazing companies. And just to kind of pick their brains and see what their experience was like at the company, what advice they may have. And I remember very vividly every single time after every interview, I would say I'm a sophomore. And they would always be like, oh, sophomore in college. And I said, no, I'm a sophomore in high school. And that's another tip is start early because people love that. And also people love talking about themselves. So you'll get to hear some interesting things. And then another thing I did is I acquired jobs and internships in various roles. So I worked in retail, PR, sales, social media, art, and even politics, just because, the broader your experience, the better idea of what you want to do you have. And also you have an increased appeal for employers, because if you're just solely working under one role, even if you're good at it, there may be something else that you didn't know about that you didn't even try available. And then if you try it, and you could end up falling in love with that. So my advice is, again, try everything. That is like my number one piece of advice. I always knew I wanted to do fashion, and I used to be so narrow-minded about the opportunities and positions that I would pursue. And I would solely focus on fashion, but it wasn't until I kind of branched out a little bit and realized that I have a lot of different interests, and it's kind of expanded my knowledge of different industries and what I want to do. So like, for instance, I never wanted to even thought about being an actress or anything. And then my favorite show, Outer Banks, was doing a casting call. And so I decided to go and I did the show. And so after that, I did a few more. At first, I was super uncomfortable in front of the camera, and it made me super nervous and really anxious. But as I did more TV shows and kind of got exposed more to it, made me a lot more comfortable, to when I was in Milan and Paris for Fashion Week and was a PR coordinator and I was an interviewer. I was super comfortable in front of the camera. And had I not done that, I may not have had the opportunity to be an interviewer, which was absolutely incredible. Another thing is never take no for an answer. I've learned nothing is ever impossible. You're going to get a lot of, you may do a lot of outreach to different people and companies and get no answer. And that's totally fine. My rule of thumb is to do at least like 3 emails, but, obviously spread it out, because sometimes the email just goes down to the bottom of their list, or like maybe it's Fashion Week and it's super insane and they're not barely checking their emails. So, nothing is ever impossible, and also persistence is key. Another thing is learn how to advocate for yourself. This is super important, especially in fashion, because there are so many companies that, I mean, you've likely seen Devil Wears Prada, and they really push you to the limit and really push you to the bone. And especially as an intern, you're kind of doing every single thing. You're working with every single part of the company. So learn how to advocate for yourself. Another thing is network every chance you can. This can be people in fashion or people in other industries, because you never know, someone could be like the best friend of Gigi Hadid and you would have no idea if you didn't talk to her, and maybe she works in like tech or something. So there's always new people you can meet, and also new things you can learn. Another thing is have a clear idea of what your goals are and work towards them. So if you have an idea of what you really want out of life, it helps you figure out which opportunities to pursue. It helps you kind of figure out where you want to go, like maybe you want to move abroad, maybe you don't, but have an idea of what that, not end goal, but like where you see yourself going. Another thing is invest in yourself and your future. Again, fashion has a lot of unpaid internships, which are super hard. But what I've always done is I would have like an unpaid internship and then a side gig on the side where it would allow me to have that money that, come in. And sometimes the unpaid internships are usually the ones that push you up the ladder even further. So that's important to take into consideration. And the last thing, super cliche, is just have fun. This is your life and you're supposed to live it and enjoy what you're doing. So be willing to try new things, be open to doing crazy things and just, have fun. So yeah, that's kind of my summary, I guess. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask and I'd love to answer them.
Oh, Bailey, I actually do have a question to start off, but in your opinion, what do you think was the most memorable experience? I think trying out fashion for the first time, like when you were getting involved with New York Fashion Week and in Milan.
I think, there's these things called butterfly moments. I'm sure you guys have heard of it, when there's like a moment where you see your growth and see how far you've come. And I had that moment this was like, I think this was last year or 2 years ago. I was working New York Fashion Week and I was dressing the models, and this one model comes by, and then I was like, she looks so familiar. It's like, that's so weird. I don't know why I know her. And then I looked at her name and it took me a second to register who it was. But like in middle school, I remember there was a show that came out. It was like a one-time thing. It was on E! News, and it was basically kind of about Fashion Week behind the scenes, like all these models. And this one model was actually on the show. And I remember watching her and I was like, she's going to make it. She's going to go so far. Like, I'm going to be there one day and see her. And then I saw her come through the door. And that's when I was like, that's insane. And that's when I really realized like hard work really pays off. And if you keep going, like you will get to where you want to. It's just persistence is the most important. But that was crazy. But another thing is, when I was working Paris Fashion Week, I was outside next to the Ritz, and then Anna Wintour walked by me, and I had a moment, which of course she's like the woman in fashion. And I worked the Tom Ford show, and she also walked by me there, and I got in a paparazzi picture. So I think those are like the big, because she's been my role model since I can remember. Like my yearbook quote is from her. So that was probably the craziest part. Let's see. And for finding internship opportunities, that's a great question. I think the way that I went about it is, again, LinkedIn. Sorry, that always happens to my computer. But LinkedIn is, you set up some networking calls and have conversations. And sometimes there's like off the market internships. Sometimes they'll be like, I can put you in touch with this person. That really helps. Also, Fashionista has good ones, Business of Fashion, and just like the LinkedIn jobs posting. Those are really great because, there's so many internships available that you don't realize it until you just ask for it. And I like your question, Raksha. Since I was from North Carolina, I was really working with what was available. So I found and I think that kind of benefited me the most because it exposed me to a bunch of different industries. So just reach out to local companies that you work with, or that are like in your hometown, and see if they're looking for interns or like kind of a shadow position or something like that, to like at least expose you to that side of like different, like a boutique, or maybe even if you want to do marketing, maybe there's like you could help with the marketing for a brand. And I think that also really helps for like career wise, because it shows that you can help a business that's like kind of, middle, and like help it work its way up. And for as a high schooler, would you say try everything idea would work? Yes, I think, I feel like one thing that's kind of confusing is a lot of people will be like, kind of stick to your interests because colleges will like that better. But I disagree with that, because I would have, like, let's say I worked for a PR firm I did a special event internship for this PR firm. And then that allowed me to that carried over into another job I did that was in fashion. So they all are like interconnected. You just have to find which ones are you want to pursue. And for formatting the emails I send to companies, I'm just like very formal. I just say, hi, my name is Bailey, and then I do a brief introduction and then say, like, I found your profile and I'm very interested in learning more. Would you be open in having a telephone conversation or meeting for coffee? And that is super helpful. And if they don't answer, no big deal. Just keep reaching out to as many people as possible. And yeah. Any other questions? Are we all good?
Oh, I do actually have another question. I'm actually curious about how in college your studies are kind of split between I guess like the more like fashion industry side, but also how that leverages with like business studies and like similar like business studies and how like kind of coursework generally looks like for you in university.
So I'm studying international trade, and I knew that I had so many interests that I didn't want to solely focus on fashion. So that allows me to take more business courses. And then, for projects for the courses, I'm able to do like a project on Louis Vuitton, or maybe I decide like I want to do Nike. I think that way it allows for a little more flexibility, which is super nice for me. So that's usually what it looks like. I think my favorite part about attending FIT is probably the teachers' flexibility, because I do a lot of extracurricular stuff for like, professional events and like Milan, Paris, and New York Fashion Week. The whole month I'm basically off, barely at school, but they're super flexible and they understand why we're there, and they understand that we have, our goals that we're trying to pursue, and like I still get the coursework done on time. So I think that's kind of the best part. And just seeing like all the creative people and meeting people from all over the world, I think that's also incredible, because I love to travel. So it's fun talking to people from different places and kind of their experiences within the industry.
Thank you, Bailey.
Of course. See, should I stop sharing my screen or do I keep it on? Because I know the thing is about to end.
I think either works. You can stop share, but we'll be transported back into the main session in like 10 seconds or so.
Okay, perfect. So I'll just leave it on.
Hi everyone, welcome back. Before we start the Q&A section, we want to take a quick pause to take a Zoom group picture. So if everyone can turn on their camera, we'll take 2 pictures, and then the second one will be with a heart, because that's kind of a Girls for Business tradition. So if everyone is ready, I'll give you a couple of seconds to turn on the cameras. Okay, ready? For the first one? Ready? I will take my phone photo. 1, 2, 3. And then for the second one, let's do a heart, as in Girls for Business tradition. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Thank you, everybody. That was perfect. So Girls for Business will be posting event recaps on our Instagram, LinkedIn, and also releasing an article on this event shortly. So stay tuned for all of our social media information at the end of the event during our wrap up. And now we will be transitioning to our Q&A session. So we'll first be starting off with some questions from you guys in the RSVP form. Well, you can feel free to type any questions you have into the chat now to be answered live as well. So I guess we will start off with some of the most frequently asked questions from the RSVP while you guys type in the chat. So this goes for both of our wonderful panelists today. How do you prioritize or balance between business and fashion as those two? Is there one that you would say you prefer over the other? And would you say that this intersection leans more towards fashion or business? Which one do you prefer? Or if you balance, how do you balance it?
I think for me, I am more business focused because I love fashion, but I have a lot of different interests. So I like to be able to have the flexibility to kind of dip my toe into different industries and kind of like experience with different companies and brands and stuff like that. So I feel like I kind of prioritize business. I used to prioritize fashion, but then it kind of shifted as I learned that there's so much like other opportunities available. So I just try to keep myself free for anything.
I also lean a little bit more towards business. I feel like in high school I was very fashion, and then when I got to college, I saw how big like the world of business was, and I feel like there's a lot more opportunity because fashion in general is like super competitive, and it's very last minute. You can get emailed like the night before there's something happening the next day. So yeah.
Thank you so much. Now for one of the other questions. Some people were wondering what you would say are some of the most difficult situations you've experienced in this industry and how you were able to persevere through these challenges.
So again, like as an intern, you're kind of in the middle of everything and you're kind of expected to wear a lot of hats at the same time. So I think that was something that was kind of hard for me to grasp. I definitely have gotten used to it now and I kind of you're ready to do anything. But this past fashion week, I was interning with the company, which was great and incredible. But from like the get-go, I went in and then the employer asked me to make an announcement, make the intern make an announcement to the models. And I was like, I literally just got here. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll make the announcement. And then, throughout that week and the time leading up to the show, I was basically like a seamstress. I was a dresser. Like I literally did everything. And it was a lot, especially with school. And I had my day off for my classes and they still needed my help. So I just was like, sorry, I can't do anything right now. And sometimes like you just have to advocate for yourself. So I just figured it out and I was like, this is all I can do. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. So that was kind of something that was kind of difficult and I navigated through it.
Same thing, like kind of like carrying off of that. I feel like there's so much that you're asked to do. And also the industry is just so competitive as a whole. So I think finding little things to kind of stand out to, I think is also really helpful. I know I talked in a little bit of my presentation, like about like having a portfolio and just finding little ways to be a little bit different and stand out as well.
Great. I think that's actually such great advice for everyone. And it's not just, I think, just about fashion and business. You need balance in every aspect of your life, and advocating for yourself is really important. So thank you. And so this one's a little bit more technical, but there are microtrends always influencing both business and fashion, I guess specifically for fashion. So how would you say the pressure of capitalism influences the artistry in fashion, and how do you keep up with all of these little microtrends going on and integrate that into your abilities and skill set?
I think that the pressure of capitalism definitely impacts the artistry. I mean, I've seen it. I've done shows where I'd be putting the clothes on and they were just terrible quality, but they were still like thousands of dollars. And, the micro trends are just last for like a second and then it just keeps going. So I've always been someone who secondhand thrifts, and I love that kind of wearing my own pieces that are unique. I don't like to really follow the trends, which is funny because I work in fashion, but I like doing my own thing and taking my own spin on it. So I kind of learn ways to like make a trend stand out. I think that's kind of how I do it.
With trends and everything, I feel like we all know how big TikTok is. Like someone will make a video and be like, you need this. And then immediately like you go to Amazon and you like add it to your cart and buy it. And I'm definitely a victim of many items of that. But I think just being like really strong and not giving into that. And then also looking at trends and seeing like is like, I remember a few summers ago, like hats, and like really thick jewelry was like really in, and like really colorful jewelry. And I was like, is this something that I'm going to wear like a few months down the road? So I think looking at it and seeing like the bigger picture, like how much often am I going to wear this? I think is also really important to ask yourself, or how long is this going to last in my closet?
Yes, definitely. I can relate to what both of you are saying about TikTok and those micro trends that are very influential. And so next we have actually a live question from one of our panelists. And uh, so in terms of networking with online communities, do you guys have any advice on how or where you can find these online communities and how they've helped you guys?
I just would say LinkedIn is really helpful. You can reach out to professionals who are doing a certain thing that you want to do, or work in an industry you want to work in, or like a job you want to pursue. That's really helpful. And just like finding a way to have a networking call or even email or meet for coffee. And there are also some groups on there that I've seen like that are super great that you can kind of join and discuss with other members, and kind of you can give advice and like they can give you advice. So I would definitely say LinkedIn is my number one.
I actually also talked about this in my presentation, which was that there's actually an app called Geneva. I don't know if like any of you guys have heard of it, but I just found out about it like a few months ago, and I actually made like my own group on there because I wanted to, just like you said, like make like my Instagram community like a lot more personal. And there's so many groups on there that I was like just playing around with the other day, and I know there's people that have groups on there for like marketing and business and book clubs, like anything that you're interested, like in-person meetups. So I think that app, if you don't know about it, it's free. It's really great, and I've been using it for a while, and that's definitely a great way to like connect with other people.
Thank you so much for Geneva and LinkedIn. I will be looking at both of those after this. And so, if you could change something in terms of your entire journey towards this point in your career and in your life, what would it be? And what advice would you give for someone who's trying to get to your point in life right now?
I think something that I would have changed is I would have advocated for myself earlier on. I just kind of was like, okay with some of the manual labor that I was doing. And I remember I was working for a stylist, and I came home one day and I had my arm was covered in bruises. And I was like, that's fine. That's totally fine. It's not fine. It's definitely important to take priority of yourself, and like also do as much as you can to help the company and whoever you're working for, but you need to set boundaries. And I think had I done that earlier on, I think maybe my arm wouldn't have been bruised, probably would have been. But so I'd say like for advice to get to where I am is, again, LinkedIn, super helpful. And I talked about this a lot in my presentation, just like reaching out, cold calls, cold emails, that really sets you apart. Because there's one company that I interned for last semester that I've been reaching out to them since my freshman year of high school. Like every single fashion week, I reach out to them. And then this past fashion week, I was finally able to work with them. So, persistence really pays off.
Yeah, I actually have like two quotes that really have like helped me with this journey, especially when it comes to like fashion and business. And something that I would tell myself is that like I get really shy in environments, and like sometimes I get really scared, and especially like when it comes to networking and talking to people. But I definitely would tell my like younger self to just like reach out to people and put myself out there, especially in situations where I'm not like the most comfortable, like just going up to someone and talking to them, or networking, asking for emails at events. Like I would definitely tell my younger self that there is no harm in doing that, and that the worst someone could say is no. And then something else that has also really helped me is that I'm starting to learn that rejection is redirection. And even if someone says no, like there's so many internships I've applied for that I've gotten rejected from, and then something even a few months down the road ends up opening up, and I'm like, I'm so glad I didn't get that other internship, because now I have this going on for me. So definitely don't get discouraged when something doesn't go your way, because I feel like it means something even better is going to come down.
Thank you. I really appreciate those insights and that positive take on rejection. I think that's something a lot of people need to hear, especially, at our age. For our next question, it's another live question and it's a bit more technical. So could you walk us through what exactly working a brand deal entails in the fashion industry, and if there's any advice you can give on navigating that?
Yeah, I could go first. When working a brand deal in fashion, usually it's either like the brand reaches out to you or you reach out to the brand. But it typically goes with the company will like send you items that they want you to shoot. And then there's the like review process of whether the brand wants you to like reshoot the whatever it is that you shot, whether it was like a video or a photo. And these brands also, they usually send you a creative brief and they'll be like, can you follow this kind of inspiration, this style? And then after they review it, they have like very specific captions sometimes that they want you to use, like specific hashtags. If it's an ad, you have to follow like certain guidelines to show that it is like a paid partnership deal. And after it goes live on your social media or on the brand social media, they will either promote it, they'll put advertising into behind it, or it will just live on your social media for as long as the brand wants you to keep it on there. And yeah, that's usually how it goes, like typically.
I don't really have experience like with doing it through my social media. I have experience doing it through like other brand social media. So I remember for Fashion Week for our event, we had the company that I was working for. We were doing deals with like a liquor company, and then I think it was like a hotel, and then we had to post a certain amount of things, and there were certain requirements. So we had to like read through and make sure that they were all exactly how typed out and super easily organized, because it's really important because they have very high expectations, and like there were contracts we had to read through. So that was kind of, I did sort of like the back end of it.
Great, thank you. That was actually really good. Like it was like a two-pronged approach. There was multiple sides to it. Um, so for one of our, I guess more general questions, this isn't as technical, it'd be if there's anyone that you have that's a particular inspiration to you right now, whether it's in the industry or it can even be someone completely, separate from the fashion or business industry, and how exactly they have inspired you in your day-to-day life and in your work.
Yeah, so for me, it's actually Franca Sozzani. She was the old editor-in-chief of Italian Vogue. She's recently passed, but I remember I watched a documentary that she made, and she kind of showed how she revolutionized Italian Vogue, and it was just very beautiful and creative, and it was art. And I think that that's right now, fashion is kind of missing that art that it used to have. So she's definitely one of my inspirations. And I remember she said one quote, said something about, it's not a dream if it's supposed to be realistic. And I think that's super important to take into account, because, there are going to be people who are going to say something is impossible, or, like you're dreaming too big, like that's not going to happen. But persistence really pays off, and it totally can happen. You just have to put in the work. And it's a dream for a reason. You're not going to call it a reality. So that's someone who really inspires me.
I also have a really big inspiration in the fashion industry. It's more of a French fashion designer. His name is Jacquemus, Simon Jacquemus, and I'm really obsessed with his brand. And I remember watching like an interview about him, and he was saying that when he was younger, he was really into fashion, but everyone around him was judging him because he was a guy. And in the fashion industry, a lot of people give heat to guys because they're like, why are you wearing like this, or why are you wearing that? And I feel like fashion is just, if you love it, just wear what you love. We shouldn't be judging people. And when he was younger, I remember he said like his mom passed away. His grandma really stepped up and was like, do what you love. He started his fashion brand, and ever since then he is now like in Vogue. He just had a show this week at in Versailles in France, and it was so cool. And I feel like he really breaks the boundaries in fashion. He does everything really creative and really brings back that like storytelling that sometimes a lot of fashion brands kind of lose touch of. And I feel like a lot of people are like, Vogue is boring, like everything's getting boring nowadays, but I feel like he definitely is like breaking that norm, especially as a guy.
Thank you for sharing with us your inspirations. I can really tell that you guys are really like in touch and have under a deep understanding of these people. And so another one of our live questions that we just got is how much harder would you say it is to get into the fashion industry if you don't have a fashion specific degree? Like if you just have a general degree in marketing, would you say the fashion industry is one of the harder industries to break into, or is it something like anyone can do?
It's definitely competitive, but if you have the experience, they need marketing professionals, they need finance professionals at the end of the day. So that, if you put in the work again, like you can definitely do it and it's definitely feasible. But it can be a little competitive. It just depends on like how you set yourself apart, I guess.
With networking, I feel like that plays also a really big part in that, because I met a lot of people that have actually graduated with a degree completely different than what they're working in. I met someone at an event one time that had a degree in theater, and she ended up working at like a public relations brand, and she was like, that has nothing to do with each other. But she said that she had a friend of a friend who owned like a marketing agency and was doing PR, and they needed someone, and she was like, I'll do it. And that was how she got into that world. So I feel like even if your degree is different, if you have the right connections, and even if you know like a friend of a friend of a friend who knows someone, then you can definitely get to wherever it is that you want to be.
Yeah, I think that's actually really great to hear because often going into college, you don't really know what you want to do. You're still kind of young into your life, and it's hard to decide what you want to do for the rest of your life. And so hearing that you can do really anything you want if you just make the effort is really inspiring. So I guess building off on just career pathways, another live question was asking whether you can give some insight into some of the more creative and technical career pathways. I was listening in on one of the presentations, and I noticed that there are a lot of different kinds of careers you can take in the fashion industry. And I was wondering if you could touch on some of your more, I guess, technical ones or unique ones you haven't heard talked about as much.
Well, I actually saw something a few weeks ago about someone had a degree in psychology and then they ended up working at, I think it was like Fendi or Louis Vuitton or something, but you don't really realize it. Like they are able to understand the consumers and how to kind of connect with the consumers and reel in more clients. And, with science, like you may have a biology degree, but you can apply that to like different fabrics and fibers for clothing. It's very, the industry is very multifaceted. There's so much you can do, and having experience in something that may not seem like kind of what Pamela was saying earlier about how you can get a degree in something, but it may not typically apply for what you're doing. It's so true because, there's so many different things you can apply to different industries. So I think that's really awesome.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I know there's some jobs in fashion that I also talked a little bit about. There is a lot of math involved with when it comes to fashion. I know a lot of people, well, if you don't like math, I wouldn't recommend like doing buyers or anything that has to do with like wholesale and all that stuff, because you're gonna have to calculate like how many items you're gonna need for that season. And it's definitely like a lot more technical, but everyone thinks that fashion is really just like the runways and getting items from designers and like all that fun stuff. But there's also like math and other things involved, just like Bailey said, like science and all of that.
Thank you. I didn't actually realize how multifaceted the fashion industry was. I will have to say I was a victim of just seeing the runways and thinking, that's all there is to it. But thank you for giving us those additional insights. I think this might be one of our last few questions as time is wrapping up. So, one of the last few ones is how would you say, like, could you walk us through what a day-to-day in you guys' life looks like? Because I know each of you have talked about the internships that you do and the brand deals and working with so many, even like going to Fashion Week, flying out to Fashion Week. Like, how does that fit in when you're still, a college student and juggling everything?
So for me, my schedule changes a lot. So in the month of like September and through like the beginning of October, and then February through the beginning of March, that's really when Fashion Month is happening. And I go to 3 out of the 4. So what happens is like, that's all, because right now I'm nannying because I'm about to go to Australia. So right now it's not really going to apply to like the fashion part, but during those months, I have like school on top of it. So I kind of plan it out, and I'll have, and typically a New York Fashion Week internship, whether I'm working with a brand or even like dressing models or like an events agency, it really just depends on what it is. And so then I'll have that and kind of like classes scheduled between. And then when I go to Milan, I go to Milan first usually, and I kind of we'll have like the first day, it's like this pre-jet lag, and then we'll typically have shows like the day after and the days throughout the week, and then like industry visits and stuff like with PR agencies and events that are happening. And that's the same with Paris. And then I come back and I'll have my classes again. And, I talked about this in my presentation, that I also do acting, like I'm a background actress for different shows and stuff. So I kind of, when I came back, I had a shoot for like literally the week I got back. So it's definitely a lot going on. My day-to-day changes a lot.
I definitely agree. I feel like every day is really different. But when I'm in school, if I have like a 9 a.m. class, I'll wake up at like 6, commute into the city for my 9. And then if I have to intern in person that day, classes at FIT are usually like 3 to 4 hours long. So the class will start at 9 and then it won't end until 12. So then after 12, I'll like get like lunch around school and then go to the office where I meet with my internship manager, and then she'll give me like whatever task for the day. I'll be there for like a few hours, maybe until like 5, and then I'll take the train back into New Jersey. And if I have like any homework or brand deal stuff that I have to shoot like at home, either if I'm not tired by that night, which I usually am, but sometimes if I'm usually not that tired or I have like a specific deadline, I'll shoot that with like my sister. I'll go back out with her, or I'll just like do it from home, whatever it is. So, and then do it all again the next day.
Thank you for those insights. I think it's really inspirational seeing how much you guys do. And thank you again for dedicating some of your time out of your really busy schedules, as I'm hearing, to coming to speak here. I really appreciate it. We all really appreciate it. And as we are reaching around the time where it's almost time to wrap up, I wanted again, thank you guys so much. And it does look like we are about to end the event, so we can conclude this Q&A session. And thank you for your questions, everyone. And to our panelists, again, thank you so much for your wonderful insight. And now, if we're going to move on, some people have been asking on how they can keep in connection with both of you. And so here is a slide with each of the panelists' contact information for you guys. And if you would like to take a screenshot or just a picture, we'll pause here for a few seconds. And if you need to, just reach out to them if you still have any questions we weren't able to address. And let me, perfect. So now we'll be dropping a link while everyone's taking a picture or just jotting down the contact information. We'll be dropping a link to our event feedback form in the chat. And this form only takes 1 to 2 minutes to complete. And we'd really, really appreciate any feedback you have for today to make future Girls for Business events even better. And I kind of just linked it in the chat. So now finally wrapping up with a quick Girls for Business plug. Be sure to follow us on all of our socials to stay updated with all of our GFB content. For more content on the latest business news and helpful business tips, check out our other socials at Girls for Business on Instagram, LinkedIn, and our website at Girls for Business and girlsforbusiness.org. As I mentioned earlier, event recaps will be posted on all of these platforms. And for everyone currently attending, if you'd like to be tagged in the Instagram post, feel free to leave your Instagram handle in the chat right now and connect with others from this call. I'll give everyone a moment to message their usernames if you'd so choose. So we know that this slide includes a lot of links and account profiles. So if you need to, be sure to take a picture and refer back to it later. Now, finally, if you would like to get involved with the Girls for Business community, there were a few questions, and here are some of the ways that you can get involved. To access all these links, again, you can always take a picture of the slides or just scan the QR code. So as a middle or high school student, you can apply to become a mentee, and mentees can receive a one-on-one mentorship from a business college student or a business professional over the course of 10 weeks. And there are applications for the Girls for Business mentorship program open year-round, and the application link is listed right there on the screen. You can also subscribe to our mailing list to receive newsletters featuring the latest news in business, career tips, and business opportunities. So scan the QR code to join our mailing list. Additionally, you can join our team at Girls for Business. We're currently accepting applications for team roles, and we would love to work with you guys in the future. The application links are listed on the screen next to the rest of these. And lastly, you can also join our community Slack to network with girls with similar interests and build connections with girls from all over the world. As our panelists today have mentioned, networking is really important and can help you a lot in the future. So the invitation is to join in the bottom left-hand corner of the slide. So that brings us to the end of the Business and Fashion event. And thank you so much to our wonderful panelists for giving us insight on their experiences and tips and tricks on how to succeed in this career path. We definitely learned so much from you, and we thank you for taking the time to speak today. Additionally, a huge thank you to all of our participants for taking the time to attend this event as well. If you have any additional questions or even suggestions for Girls for Business or our panelists, please feel free to stay behind for a few minutes, and we'd love to chat with you. For everyone else, I hope you all had an amazing time today, and we hope to see you all again at future Girls for Business events.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.